Report 1. It was October 20th, 1967, and the sun barely pierced through the dense canopy of giant redwoods surrounding Bluff Creek in Northern California. I, Tom Carver, and my longtime friend, Jack Harlan, had spent weeks planning this expedition. We weren't professional hunters, but we were driven by an obsession to prove that the stories of Bigfoot, that legendary shadow haunting the forests of the American Northwest, were more than just tales told around campfires. Armed with a 16mm film camera, a pair of binoculars, and courage, or perhaps madness, we ventured into the wild heart of Bluff Creek. The air was crisp that morning, heavy with the damp scent of moss and pine. The forest's silence was almost oppressive, broken only by the crunch of our boots on dry twigs and the distant murmur of the creek cutting through the valley. Jack, ever the skeptic, carried a rifle slung over his shoulder, more as a precaution against bears than out of belief in the local legends. "Tom, this is a waste of time," he grumbled, kicking a loose stone on the path. "If this thing existed, they'd have found bones, clear tracks, something." I just smiled, adjusting the camera hanging around my neck. Something inside me, call it intuition or stubbornness, told me we were on the right track. Around noon, we stopped near a clearing where the creek formed a lazy bend. The sunlight reflected off the water, casting an almost hypnotic glow. As Jack crouched to fill his canteen, a sharp crack echoed through the forest, like a thick branch snapping in half. I froze. My heart raced, and I glanced at Jack, who looked up, his eyes narrowed. "Probably a deer," he muttered, but his voice quavered slightly. Then came another sound, a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the ground beneath our feet. It wasn't a deer, it wasn't a bear, it was something else. I grabbed the camera with trembling hands, struggling to stay focused. "Jack, stay quiet," I whispered, pointing toward a spot beyond the clearing. Between the trees, something was moving, something big. At first, I thought it was an illusion, a trick of the light dancing among the trunks. But then it emerged, a massive figure, covered in dark fur, walking with deliberate, almost human strides. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, with shoulders broad enough to topple a tree. Its arms swung in an oddly graceful rhythm, and each step sent a faint tremor through the ground. My stomach churned. This wasn't a man. It wasn't an ordinary animal. It was Bigfoot. "Tom, you seeing this?" Jack whispered, his voice barely audible. I didn't answer. I was too busy fumbling with the camera, my fingers clumsy with fear and adrenaline. The creature was about 30 yards away, moving parallel to the creek. For a moment, it paused and turned its head toward us. Its eyes, hidden in the shadow of its fur-covered face, seemed to pierce through us. There was an intelligence there, a presence that made me feel small, like prey being sized up. The air grew heavier, thick with an acrid, almost metallic smell that hadn't been there before. I finally got the camera rolling, my heart pounding so loud I was sure the creature could hear it. It continued its path, its movements fluid, the muscles visible beneath its thick fur as it crossed the clearing. Each step was slow but powerful, as if it knew nothing in this forest could challenge it. Then suddenly, it looked right at us. Not just a glance, but a fixed, piercing stare that felt like it lasted an eternity. My blood ran cold. Jack gripped my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. "Let's go, Tom. Now," he whispered, but I couldn't move. I was mesmerized, caught between terror and fascination. The creature took a few more steps, and with surprising agility for its size, vanished into the trees. The silence returned, but it was different now, a screaming silence. Jack and I stood there, paralyzed for long minutes, waiting for something else to happen. But nothing did. Just the sound of the creek and the cold wind beginning to blow. When we finally mustered the courage to head back to camp, our legs were shaking, and the forest, once merely wild, now felt alive, watching our every move. Back in civilization, the film we recorded, now called the Carver Harlan film, became a sensation. Some called it undeniable proof of Bigfoot's existence, pointing to the details of its movement, the texture of its fur, the way its muscles flexed. Others laughed, dismissing it as a hoax, claiming it was just a man in a shoddy costume. Jack and I never quite knew what we saw that day. But at night, when I close my eyes, I still see that stare. And sometimes, when the wind blows hard, I swear I catch that acrid smell again, as if the forest never let us go.
Report 2. It was a foggy morning on April 21st, 1934, and the air around Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands was steeped in an unsettling silence. I, Dr. Alistair Gordon, a London physician seeking respite after years of grueling hospital shifts, was driving my old Morris along the winding road that hugged the lake's edge. The water's surface, dark as ink, mirrored the gray sky, and the mist crept over the hills, cloaking everything in a veil that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. I wasn't a man prone to superstition, but the tales of the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie as the locals called it, had always piqued my curiosity. Fishermen's stories, I thought, exaggerations of weary minds. But that day, something changed. I had pulled over near a bend where the lake narrowed, drawn by a strange shimmer on the water. The fog was so thick I could barely see beyond a few yards, and the silence was broken only by the faint lapping of waves against the rocks. I grabbed my Kodak camera, a gift from my wife, and decided to walk to the shore to snap some photos of the scenery. After all, even if the legends were just that, legends, the lake itself was a breathtaking sight. But as I adjusted the lens, something disturbed the water's surface, a movement that felt unnatural. A slow, almost deliberate ripple, as if something massive was stirring just below. My heart lurched, and I instinctively crouched behind a bush, clutching the camera tightly. The air seemed colder now, and a strange smell, something between rotting seaweed and a metallic tang, filled my nostrils. Then, I saw it. At first, it was just a shadow, an indistinct shape breaking the surface. But slowly, it emerged, a small head perched atop a long, sinuous neck, like that of a giant serpent. The creature glided through the water with an otherworldly grace, its dark skin gleaming faintly under the dim light, as if carved from polished ebony. Its eyes, if it had any, were hidden in shadow, but I felt a weight, as if something was watching me, assessing my presence. My hands shook as I aimed the camera. I didn't know if it was fear or excitement, but every fiber of my being screamed for me to run. Yet I clicked the shutter, capturing the image of that thing that belonged in no zoology book. The creature raised its neck higher, as if sniffing the air, and for a moment I swear I heard a low sound, a moan that seemed to rise from the lake's depths, vibrating in my chest like a distant drum. Then the fog seemed to close around it, and in the blink of an eye, the creature sank, leaving only ripples spreading slowly across the surface. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so loudly it seemed to echo in the stillness. My rational mind tried to make sense of it, a floating log, perhaps, or a large bird distorted by the fog, but I knew it wasn't that. Whatever it was, it didn't belong to this world, or at least not the one I knew. I ran back to the car, the camera swinging against my chest, and drove to the nearest village, where I showed the photo to a local innkeeper. He stared at the image with wide eyes and muttered something about the old monster before offering me a whiskey, which I accepted without hesitation. When the photograph, later dubbed the doctor's photograph, was published in the Daily Mail, the world went wild. Some called me a hero, others a fraud. Decades later, in 1994, a man named Christian Sperling confessed that the image was a hoax, crafted with a toy mounted on a wooden submarine. He claimed I was in on it, that it was all a stunt for fame. But I swear on my honor, there was no toy in that lake. What I saw that morning wasn't wood or trickery. It was real, alive, and ancient in a way that made me feel like an intruder in its realm. To this day, when I close my eyes, I see that long neck cutting through the water, and I feel that moan echoing within me. Loch Ness holds its secrets in its depths, and I know, Report 3. It was a moonless night in mid-2021, and the silence of the rural outskirts of Caguasu, Paraguay, seemed to swallow every sound except the relentless chirping of crickets. I, Miguel Rojas, a 32-year-old motorcycle mechanic, was walking home after fixing a broken pickup truck at a neighbor's farm. The dirt road, flanked by cassava fields and thorny bushes, was lit only by the faint beam of my phone's flashlight. I knew those trails like the back of my hand, but that night, something felt off. The air was heavier, thick with a strange smell, a mix of damp earth and something foul, like meat left out in the sun. Stories of the Lobizon had always floated around these parts. My grandparents spoke of a cursed creature, a man who, under the full moon, transformed into a monstrous hybrid of wolf and human. I never paid much attention. It was folklore, stuff to scare kids or spice up conversations at the local shop. But that night, as I walked, a shiver ran through me that I couldn't explain. The crickets stopped chirping all at once, and the silence that followed was so thick it felt like the world was holding its breath. That's when I heard the first sound, a slow, dragging noise, like something heavy moving through the bushes to my left. I stopped, my heart pounding, and swung my flashlight toward the undergrowth. Nothing, just shadows dancing in the flickering light. "It's just a dog," I muttered to myself, trying to stay calm. But then came another sound, a low guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. My mouth went dry. I fumbled for my phone with sweaty hands, thinking to record anything that could prove I wasn't losing my mind. And then I saw it. About 20 yards away, where the road curved, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was thin, lanky, moving on all fours like an animal, but with a posture that wasn't natural. Its skin, if you could call it skin, looked gray and stretched, glinting sickly under my phone's light. Its head was small, with pointed ears, and its eyes, God, those eyes. They reflected the flashlight like glowing embers, locked onto me with an intensity that felt like it was tearing my soul apart. It was like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, but worse. There was something human in it, something that knew I was there and didn't like it. My legs screamed to run, but I was frozen, my phone shaking in my hand as I recorded. The creature took a step, then another, its movements quick and jerky, as if deciding whether to attack. A low moan escaped it, a sound that was neither animal nor human, but something trapped between the two. The foul smell grew stronger, almost choking me. "Go away," I whispered, more to myself than to it, but the creature paused, tilting its head as if it understood. For a moment, I thought it would lunge. But then, with terrifying speed, it turned and vanished into the bushes, leaving only the sound of snapping branches and an emptiness that seemed to suck the air from around me. I ran home without looking back, my heart in my throat, the phone still recording the blurry ground. When I got there, I locked the door and spent the whole night staring at the screen, watching the shaky video I'd captured. The image was grainy, poor quality, but there it was, that thing that didn't belong in the world of the living. I showed the video to a few friends in the village, and soon it spread, first through WhatsApp, then across the internet. Some said it was a mangy dog, others claimed it was a malnourished bear. But the elders, those who grew up with the Lobizon stories, just shook their heads and muttered about ancient curses. I don't know what I saw that night. Maybe I never will, but since then, I avoid walking alone at night. And sometimes, when the wind blows hard across the fields, I swear I hear that growl again, as if the Lobizon is still